the fans don't respond the way that they wanted them to or predicted them to, and they say, no, you guys were wrong. We didn't make a bad product. We didn't mess up the character. We didn't give you something that you never asked for. You just don't even understand what you're doing there.
It's another example of a bunch of people in an industry that don't understand the basics about not just the comic book industry and business itself. But they are going to try to find any excuse to blame anyone but themselves.
And this happens essentially at every single level. We're going to talk about creators. We're going to talk about executives. We're going to talk about the media. We're even going to talk about, outside medias that are borrowing from comic books that can't get that right and then blame us for that too. The first big example, which I think is still hilarious, Marvel blames fans for badly written heroes. David Gabriel stated in 2017, we saw the sales of any character that was diverse, any character that was new, our female characters, anything that was not a core Marvel character, people were turning their nose up against. That was difficult for us because we had a lot of fresh, new, exciting ideas that we were trying to get out, and nothing really worked. It wasn't because their ideas weren't fresh or exciting. It wasn't because they were bastardizing the characters. It was because the fans just didn't get what they were doing, and we're the reason that their sales fell. It wasn't because they delivered things that weren't core Marvel characters that people actually wanted.
Coke tried this back in the day with New Coke. And did Coke turn around and blame the soda drinkers of America for the failure of New Coke? No, they just went back to fucking Coke and they called it Coke Classic.
And the problem with David Gabriel is he's been the marketing guy at Marvel for a very long time. And yes, we like to blame the creators. We like to blame the leadership, the editorial and stuff like that. David Gabriel has an enormously bad track record. He is one of the real reasons that Marvel is so far off the tracks. He doesn't even understand who their customers or what they're looking for anymore.
The problem is he's not a very good marketing guy because otherwise he'd work in a larger industry. He only has about 2 or 3 tricks up his sleeve, and he just keeps hammering those same buttons over and over and wondering why and blaming readers for the results of the law of diminishing returns kicking in when you only have 3 gimmicks, none of which involve quality.
But once the quality goes away and the writing goes real bad, shockingly, people don't want to support the book anymore. It probably doesn't help that you've alienated the audience by giving them a version of the hero that they didn't want to begin with, but you actually have to deliver something good to go along with it.
Their response is to blame the readers and call them names for not sticking around and not following the other diverse characters. Gogurt Hulk was a flop from the beginning. America Chavez was a flop from the beginning. Gay Iceman was a flop from the beginning. They didn't stop to reevaluate, maybe we can't just spam out any garbage and expect people to like it. And when the thing that was good or accepted by their audience dips in quality, they have very little fucking patience for it.
Absolutely, and they're still doing it. Somehow Elektra's still fucking Daredevil. Shocking to me. I think it's been 5 or 6 years at this point. Absolutely ridiculous. Has done nothing to upgrade the sales of Daredevil and certainly not Elektra. But this isn't the only example we have of people in comic books blaming fans. I love this one. Neil Gaiman claims people can't actually understand Sandman. In 2022, Sandman creator Neil Gaiman dismissed criticism of the Netflix adaptation's changes to long-established characters by claiming fans simply didn't understand the source material. In response to backlash over what many saw as forced identity swaps and political messaging, Gaiman said, if you don't like it, you probably just never understood Sandman, implying that any disagreement was rooted in ignorance rather than valid concern. This kind of rhetoric isn't just condescending, it alienates loyal readers who supported Sandman for decades. Rather than acknowledging that the series made fundamental shifts in tone and characterization, Gaiman chose to insult the intelligence of critics, reinforcing the growing divide between modern creators and the fan base that built their careers, because people just happened to notice that in the Netflix adaptation, death has now been race swapped.
The point of adapting existing things is to use the existing audience as part of your marketing and advertising campaign. The evangelists of the thing that you like, they will go out and tell people, oh yeah, you got, the big fans, they go out and evangelize for you. You got to see this. The comic was so fucking good, this and that. Unfortunately, those people also have opinions when you change things. And if you come in and you decide, how do I counteract this opinion that I don't like? You come in and you start calling anybody that shares that opinion essentially idiots.
I thought it was illiterate, basically saying that you couldn't actually understand the moments that you were reading. So if you emotionally invested in the character, you were so stupid you didn't even know what you were investing in.
But you still expect them to go out and evangelize your product, which is, it's kind of this big catch-22. You come out there and insult the people that you're relying on to sell your product to other people in this new medium, and you come out and say, no, they're fucking idiots because they have this criticism. Instead of addressing the criticism, it's just a way to avoid it. It's been a shield to avoid it for a long time, and this is another example of that shield manifesting itself. The same way that they'd call you not accepting all of the changed race swapped characters, they'd call you racist or sexist. Now, Neil Gaiman, when you point out, hey, this doesn't have the look, now he just calls you an idiot. The same thing happened with Snow White. We all see how this works. Every single time it's turned out the exact same way. Yet you fucking retards in comics and in Hollywood seem to think somehow it's going to start working out in your favor. Because 5 years ago, it's been that long, 10 years ago now, when you started this marketing push, calling someone racist or sexist or an idiot, they would shrink back in their criticism because, well, I don't want to be called that. Now it's been so overused, nobody cares about getting called those things anymore. It no longer works as your way to dismiss criticism. Now we just say, fuck you and don't buy anymore.
This one's from CBR, where they blame fans for not fixing low sales that they've noticed. In a particularly tone-deaf take, CBR blamed readers themselves for the industry's ongoing sales struggle. In 2023, CBR criticized fans who constantly complain about comic book sales, but rarely buy comics or support the medium. This argument ignores the glaring reality that many fans are now walking away due to the lack of quality writing, endless reboots, and characters they no longer recognize. Blaming fans for not spending money on books they no longer enjoy is like blaming customers for not eating at a failing restaurant. Rather than asking why people left, outlets like CBR scold the audience for not blindly supporting a product that's lost their trust.
Their logic was, if you keep buying the comic, then any of your criticisms are invalid because it's not enough to make you stop buying the comic. But
Reboot
when
said
you
this recently about Spider-Man, yes.
But when you stop buying the comic, well, we're not interested in the opinion of non-customers. So it's this catch-22 where if you buy it, they can ignore you. If you stop buying it, they can ignore you. So there is no reality in which they have to listen to you. And that is the same approach that CBR is taking here. If you quit, well, then you no longer have a say in the matter. And if you don't quit, then all your criticisms, well, they're obviously not serious enough to make you quit, so we don't have to listen to them. And then the fact that they pushed so many people out and they pushed them to stop reading. We're telling you, give us this thing that you used to give us. You're saying, no, go to hell, we're not doing that. And no matter how much bitching you do, we're never going to give that to you again. And they say, okay, fine, then I'm going to stop giving you my money. CBR turns around and goes, well, see, you're the problem. They feel like they're owed your business. You are obligated to purchase shit.
Yes, Doc, because you are a lifelong X-Men fan. You've been a supporter for 35 years. It doesn't matter what Gail Simone or Jed McKay are doing. You are obligated, because of your fandom, to support the book no matter what.
This whole thing went from thinking that you could convince us and gaslight us into accepting the changes to you calling us dumb and that we wouldn't stop buying, to now feeling like you're obligated our money because we're quote unquote fans, and that you're still owed our evangelism to sell your product to the mass market media format that you choose, just because we like the comics, even though you're changing it. It is this absolute level of entitlement that the comic industry and Hollywood has shown in the last few years that is just astounding. But then again, there's a large portion of the country and the world that acts entitled to everything and everyone.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy that you could say you should have started supporting books that you didn't like, as if critics like myself and you haven't been pointing out why the sales are bad. If you didn't address why the sales were bad, why would you ever expect me to jump back in and start supporting?
Exactly. I have no say over the content inside that book, only whether or not I'm going to continue purchasing it. That's my only method of influence here. And then you're the one telling me that I'm the problem because I should just accept it. And it's entitlement. It's pure and simple entitlement. You're entitled to my money. I am not an ATM for corporations.
Absolutely. And this doesn't stop at comic books. This is comic book related. But I also thought this was funny. The Flash director actually started blaming women. In the aftermath of the Flash's box office failure, director Andy Muschietti subtly shifted blame towards fans, stating, "There are many women who are not interested in the Flash as a character. Rather than addressing the film's controversial lead actor, lackluster marketing, or creative missteps, Muschietti's comment implies that the core issue was another audience disinterest, particularly from a demographic that the studio failed to engage. This serves as yet another example of creators deflecting responsibility and pointing fingers at fans who are project underperformers. Don't hire non-binary weird fucker to be the star of the movie. Don't change the idea behind the film 3 or 4 times before you ever start filming it." They made so many changes to this movie along the way, not to mention the enormous red flag that was Ezra Miller before they ever started filming a single fucking frame of the thing. They knew that they had an enormous challenge to overcome, and it only got worse as they continued along in production, finished filming, and then obviously in post-production, all that kind of stuff. They knew there was a big fucking problem. You made the film. It's your fault.
They could have mothballed the goddamn thing and just pretended like it didn't happen and write off the fucking loss the way you did the shitty Batgirl movie. Just do anything other than release a giant stinking pile of garbage. And then when we don't go and give you money to go see your giant stinking pile of garbage, blame us for the fact that you made a giant stinking pile of garbage. You are not owed.
If you want women to come and support your Flash movie, go out there and hire a leading man that has sex appeal to women. Maybe not some non-binary fucking weirdo like Ezra Miller that was gonna turn off literally everybody regardless of sex.
Don't have a guy that had been like arrested multiple times for doing weird shit to women. He had like kidnapped some fucking like 15-year-old girl that he was allegedly, but I think she was found with him, that apparently he'd been talking to on the internet. He allegedly punched some lady in a hotel bar in Hawaii, and it was on fucking video, supposedly. So he got arrested like multiple times. I think there was even like a breaking and entering at some point that he was involved with. So it was like one thing after a fucking another, and it was always like shit against women too. So you make some guy that has zero sex appeal to women, and then that has a bunch of news stories coming about him potentially or allegedly doing bad things to women. Guess what? Women are probably not that fucking interested. Recast the shit and move on. Everybody liked Grant Gustin. He had good word of mouth. The show was, it was what it was. I mean, it's a CW budget Flash show. You give that show a pretty decent, a movie budget. You give the actors and actresses in it an actual movie budget, and you have like a pretty decent director and writer. Now you might have something there, especially if you try to integrate it into the rest of the the DCU, EU, whatever.
Let's not forget the other big sin about this. I don't know why we haven't mentioned it. They forgot to put either Wally West or Barry Allen into the movie as the Flash. It was just fucking Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Was he supposed to be Barry Allen?
Yeah, that's what they called him, but he's not Barry Allen.
No, he doesn't act anything like Barry Allen. He doesn't have a job anything like Barry Allen. Other than the fact that they call him Barry Allen, there is nothing Barry Allen about his character. It's just Ezra Miller being a weird guy for 2.5, almost 3 hours with a bunch of cameo and CGI. And then everybody's sitting there going, I don't like any of the people involved in this other than, Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I don't have any idea why the director ever thought women were going to come support a terrible Flash movie with a starring actor that's out there just beating the crap, allegedly, out of women nationwide.
What are they going to do? They're going to stay home exactly as they did. And when they do the predictable fucking thing, don't blame them. Everybody said,
it's always in vogue to blame the fans, Doc. It's all our fault.
When we tell you, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, this is the outcome, and then that is the outcome. Don't blame us for making the fucking prediction. We're not the fortune. That's like bitching to Miss Cleo when if you stop going to work and stop showering when you do go to work, and then you start acting like an asshole to everybody at work, and you don't do your job, and then you get fired with the predictable thing. You don't blame the HR lady. You did it to your fucking self.
Miss Cleo said all that shit to you?
Well, maybe.
That was fucking weird, dude.
Yeah. Don't blame Miss Cleo, or don't blame don't blame your fortune cookie when your fortune happens.
Stop blaming the fans. It's all bullcrap. If you appreciate this conversation, there's a longer version right now on the Doc Unfiltered podcast on Thinking Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. Hope to see you there very soon. We got this as well as our awesome conversation about how the culture war absolutely destroyed comic books.